Economic time bomb waiting to explode. Hey race, what happens if Iran shuts Strait of Hormuz? Imagine a massive, bustling highway that carries goods from every corner of the world, oil tankers laden with precious cargo, military ships on strategic missions, and cargo vessels transporting everything from electronics to essentials. Now, imagine this crucial artery suddenly sealed off, creating an unprecedented chokehold on global trade. This is the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway that connects the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Sea, through which about 20% of the world's oil passes daily. The Strait of Hormuz is in the news once again after Iran threatened to close it for traffic amid heightened tensions with Israel. If Iran were to indeed close the crucial route, the ripple effects would be felt across every market, every government, and almost every household. It's not just about oil, it's about global stability. But what would this bold move really look like, and how could the world respond? What is the Strait of Hormuz? The Strait of Hormuz is one of the world's most critical maritime choke points, through which around 20% of global oil trade passes. It connects the Persian Gulf with the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Sea. As tensions between Israel and Iran escalate, the possibility of Iran shutting down this vital waterway has become a significant concern, with potentially far-reaching global consequences. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a geographical passage, it is a vital artery for the global oil trade. According to Arab News, it handles the bulk of oil exports from the Gulf countries, including Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Kuwait, to the rest of the world. Any disruption in the flow of oil through this passage would cause a global supply shock. In 2025, as the Israel-Iran conflict heats up, Iran has made multiple threats to block the Strait of Hormuz, leveraging its control over the passage to gain a strategic advantage. Al Jazeera highlighted that this would not only affect oil supply but also send shockwaves across the global economy, with countries dependent on oil from the Middle East, such as India, China, and Japan, facing immediate shortages and skyrocketing prices. Iran's capability to block the strait. Iran has repeatedly demonstrated its military capability in the region. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps (IRGC) maintains significant naval forces in the Persian Gulf, including fast boats, submarines, and missiles, which could easily block or target key shipping routes in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran could deploy these forces to create a direct blockade, mine the waters, or even attack tankers passing through. However, while Iran has the ability to disrupt traffic, doing so would not be without its costs. Economic Times reports that blocking the strait could provoke retaliation from Western powers, particularly the United States and its allies, who maintain a significant military presence in the region to ensure freedom of navigation. Economic impact on global oil markets. A closure of the strait would have devastating consequences for global oil markets. First Post pointed out that any significant disruption in the strait's operations would immediately halt the flow of oil to major markets, potentially driving oil prices to unprecedented levels. Countries like the US, Japan, and China, which rely heavily on oil imports from the Middle East, would experience severe economic strain. The International Energy Agency (IEA) would likely intervene, but the long-term effects could be catastrophic, with oil prices potentially doubling or even tripling, according to Mathrub Humi. This would exacerbate inflation globally, disrupt supply chains, and lead to economic recessions in major oil-importing nations. Impact on Europe and Asia. Europe and Asia would be heavily impacted by a blockage of the Strait of Hormuz. As Euronews highlights, Europe imports a significant portion of its oil from the Middle East, and even though many European nations have diversified energy sources in recent years, any prolonged disruption could push them to the brink of an energy crisis. Asia, particularly China and India, would feel the pressure immediately. Arab News notes that both of these countries are major importers of oil from the Gulf, and the closure of the strait would cripple their economies, potentially leading to shortages, price hikes, and political instability. Humanitarian and security impacts. A closure would not only have economic implications but would also pose serious security and humanitarian risks. TWZ.com highlights that maritime incidents, such as attacks on oil tankers or military engagements in the Gulf, would increase, leading to heightened insecurity in the region. With oil prices surging and supplies dwindling, Countries already grappling with economic instability could see rising fuel costs, unemployment, and social unrest. In addition, disruptions to global trade would lead to delays in essential goods and services, further straining international relations. US and global military responses. Should Iran move to close the Strait of Hormuz, the United States and its allies would likely respond militarily. The West has long maintained military operations in the region to ensure the safety of key maritime routes, as stated by Al Jazeera. The U.S. Fifth Fleet, based in Bahrain, and its aircraft carriers could be mobilized to ensure freedom of navigation, potentially resulting in clashes with Iranian forces. In addition to military responses, international diplomacy would play a critical role in attempting to de-escalate the situation. However, the US and Iran have been engaged in high-stakes negotiations for years, and the closure of the strait would likely inflame the already tense relations, possibly drawing in other powers like Russia and China. Could Iran risk global isolation? While Iran may have strategic leverage in the region, closing the Strait of Hormuz would risk further international isolation. Any significant closure would increase the likelihood of severe economic sanctions, particularly from the US, Europe, and other oil-dependent nations. Furthermore, Iran's relationship with its neighbors, including Saudi Arabia and the UAE, could deteriorate, given their heavy reliance on the free flow of oil through the strait. Swipe left for next video. Iran's leadership would have to carefully weigh the potential economic fallout, not only from a global embargo but also from a loss of regional support. At a time when Iran is already facing severe economic pressure, including US sanctions and a weakening economy, the move could backfire. The closure of the strait would be a high-stakes move by Iran, leveraging its control of this vital passage to assert power in the Middle East. However, as many analysts and experts have noted, the consequences for Iran and the global community would be severe. Whether or not Iran follows through on this threat will depend on how the Israel-Iran conflict unfolds and whether Tehran perceives such an escalation as a necessary measure to defend its interests or a gamble it cannot afford to take. Latest blogs.